Hello. Ooh, we have volume. Hello, everybody. Hello. Woo! Wave the hands. Are you here? Are you happy to be here? Of course we are. Okay, so welcome. My name is Gillian Gottsell. I'm the founder of blockleaders.io and a journalist with Cointelegraph and the Street Crypto. And I'm also the newly elected congresswoman for Liberland in Europe. Ask me afterwards if you're intrigued. Anyway, I'm delighted to be here because DevCon has just got a cybersecurity overhaul. The DeCC and Shielding Summit held by DeCC and Privacy Guardians, and you guys are here to witness it, so thank you so much for coming. This is the first time that the DevCon conference has been joined by the leading confidential computing summit. Two giants have come together to produce this day of talks, panels, workshops, and startup pitches, all focused on the privacy of blockchain. This is an opportunity to step into the future of decentralized technology and be part of a movement that values privacy and innovation at its core. DCC, or Decentralized Confidential Computing, was created at the start of the year by a consortium of privacy-focused companies. 6 major events later, and some 30 companies have joined the DCC Alliance, including Secret Network Foundation, Coti, Archium, Vala, iExec, and Partasia Blockchain, amongst others. These companies are sometimes competitive, but all adhere to the principle of confidential computing for blockchains. Together they include 5 main privacy technologies, including TEE, MPC, ZK, FHE, and Garble circuits. On the other hand, Shielding Summit, led by Privacy Guardians, has established itself by uniting participants, founders, builders, and policy advocates to advance the future of privacy, data protection, and public goods funding in decentralized systems. Shielding Summit 01 launched during ETHCC 2024 in Brussels to huge success, including the company of Vitalik Buterin. In the main auditorium today, the topics that will be tackled include building Web3 with privacy by default, the regulation of privacy, why AI needs confidential computing, why DeFi needs privacy, unlocking Web3 adoption, and more. On the second stage in workshop room, there will be an opportunity to hear memorable founder stories on their journey in Web3, as well as a pitch competition for startups with founder advice and feedback. This is going to be an awesome day, and I thank you for attending. But before we kick off, I want to say a big thank you to our backers, without which this event would not be happening. So I'd like to thank Coti, Secret Network Foundation, iExec, Vala, Partasia, Penumbra, Archium, and Agoric. If I'd like to put your hands together for a round of applause for our backers, please. Thank you very much. Very generous. Now, I'd like to hand over to Adam Funnell of Agile GTM to introduce the first panel on privacy tech, the key to adoption. Adam, here we go.
Good afternoon. As with all these things, scheduling never quite runs to plan, so I will keep it brief so we kind of stick to some sort of schedule today. I, like many others, have sort of witnessed the DECC movement from Genesis block into following the events around the world now. I think this is the 3rd continent I've seen these events on, and I feel that every time it's building up momentum, that more and more people are having the conversation about this and how important it is. I was meant to be Gillian today. Obviously, I'm not Gillian, but I will be moderating the next panel. So if we'd like to get the panelists to come up onto the stage, and we can start immediately. Okay, so first of all, I'd like, if we could go from furthest left, we'll do a brief round of introductions to the panelists today.
Hello everyone, I'm Peyman. I'm from FairBlock, and we work on applications that privacy makes them more efficient, and you can save money with privacy.
Hi, I'm Leona from Intmax. And making a stateless layer of Ethereum, which provides extreme security and privacy at the same time, while we are choosing the trade-off where users have less functionality, but more privacy and security.
Hey everybody, and thank you for coming. I'm Shahaf bar-Geffen. I'm the CEO of Coti. We are building a privacy-centric Ethereum layer 2 using a novel encryption technique called gobbling circuits that allows us to be very fast and very lightweight in operation.
Hey, I'm Henry DeValence from Penumbra. We're building an interchain privacy layer and shielded DEX. So with Penumbra, you can take assets from any chain, transfer them into the multi-asset shielded pool, and then trade them on-chain with private strategies.
Excellent. So, I'm going to start with a really obvious question, and obviously the title of today's panel is why is privacy important in adoption? So I'd like to throw that straight away. Why is it important in adoption?
Should I go first?
Yeah.
So I see it as like two sides of the things. Like the first thing is that I think after 16 years, all we've built is mostly meme coin infra, and like it's not just about like politicians. There is like actual features that is missing. So even for the most basic use case, like payroll and transfers, it's not working. So like whomever says that like we don't need privacy for like adoption, I think it's just like completely wrong, and like we are missing like I don't know, hundreds of millions of like potential users just because of like few millions of users. And the other side, I think it's like basically building markets that you can like bring, like, I don't know, make more money, get better deals with privacy. So like a very good example of that is like confidential auctions that are like more incentive aligned, and you can get better deals. So like I think like there is like basically part of the logic of applications that can bring more users, not necessarily like human values.
Yeah, basically, privacy stuff are quite underrated during the winter period, crypto winter period. On the later stage of the bubble, always people start to seek about our privacy because they get some money or a larger amount of money, right? And a lot of people are logged or robbed in many places. Last bubble cycle like 2022 or 2021, so many robs and the criminals, robbers and the criminals trace many people and the physically threaten them, and people start to realize that they need privacy. So it's all about their kind of mood of that period. And even in 2017, people are kind of weighted their privacy coin at the time, Monero, Zcash, and it's quite under pressure right now, and I hope it will be changed. But yeah, basically, the political situation and also their economical situation make our privacy popular or unpopular. So it's quite hard. Depends on their the circumstance. So it's not essentially it's not needed or something like that. It's not true. And yeah, people need that after we have a greater economy on chain.
To me, I feel like it's a very frustrating thing to explain why privacy is important. I mean, everybody sitting here, we're preaching to the choir, but you feel like, why don't people get that? Like, why don't they get how important that is? And I think the Web 2 audience just take it for granted, privacy, because the infrastructure that they use offer, at least the metadata is private, right? By definition, you hear about breaches, but it never happens to you, and yeah, of course. And for us Web3 folks, we take the lack of privacy as granted. And the fact that everything is on a public blockchain, it's just, hey, that's transparency. It's not. It's not. And this is why and we talk about use cases, and right, using confidential computing, you could do blind auctions, you can do Ether wallet can do private transactions, and all that is amazing, right? But it's not. I think privacy is not just about the use cases, it's about freedom. It's about the ability to be who you are without needing to hide behind a mask. Like you can, if you want to play on-chain poker, you can do that without being worried that at some point, 10 years into the future, your government says that gambling is illegal and you've played poker, we saw you, or your kids, right? That's super basic. Or everything that goes on chain will forever be there. So everything that we've been doing, the past 14 years is there forever, right? All the mess that we've done is already there, and we cannot fix that. So it's a matter of deciding how we want the future to be. And I'm even putting aside the basic facts that no real institution, no real business will go on chain if their customers' data is publicly available. That's just not in their mandate, right? Or everything commercial, their trade secrets will become available. They can't do that. They won't do that, right? So we are hindering adoption by definition, and we are losing our basic right for freedom when we decide that privacy is not that important and we'll just accept it as it is. I think this is why it's a major fight. The good news is, like with very good ideas, this needs to happen eventually. There is no other way. So it's just a matter of time. So I'm very happy that we're all sitting on this very early on.
Yeah, so again, I agree about preaching to the choir. So just to keep it brief, I think what it comes down to is that real-world coordination requires control over information. And if you imagine trying to do business on the internet without having any encryption, it would just not be possible. And we're going to see exactly the same thing play out in blockchains, and we're actually going to, I think we're even going to see exactly the same like structure of arguments as happened in the 90s in the first iteration of the crypto wars. And so that's that.
It's interesting definition you made. You mentioned the kind of Monero and the privacy coins compared to the conversation we're having now. One of the early projects that I was involved in was actually a Monero project, and it came with certain preconceptions, for example, not the fact that we'd chosen Monero as a protocol for a certain reason. And it's interesting how we've seen the narrative kind of change over the last year or so and picks up momentum all the time. But I think with adoption, there has to be killer use cases. So we've got some great projects here. What do we see as the killer use case, and how are you building towards that at the moment?
I think the killer use case of blockchains is token trading. This is like the thing that everybody, this is like by far the most dominant use case for blockchains. And for Penumbra, we picked that as here is the minimal initial scope that we can try to execute well on. And part of the thinking there is, I think it's important to break out of this frame where it's like, oh, we're doing a private X. And what that actually means is that it's like X, but it's worse. But you should use it because it's private. What we need to do is instead get to a world where something that does X is better at doing X because it's private. And so focusing on this initial use case of just doing token trading, it sounds basic, but it's a big challenge to execute on well, and it provides the insights that are going to allow us to generalize to arbitrary applications in the future.
To just write on this, I feel, yes, that sometimes skeuomorphism, kind of like, let's do this, but with privacy, is not the best way to go. We need to have novel things that you couldn't have done without privacy. There's a big buzz around AI and private learning, etc. So that may be interesting. At least it's a good buzz. I think the idea of storing data encrypted data on chain and then using techniques like fully homomorphic encryption or gobbling circuits to make that data useful creates a lot of new things that you can't do today without privacy. So I think that would be interesting.
The killer use case of blockchain itself is like, of course, payments on the real world asset, and its trade, their trades, and also maybe our governance of these issuers or managers. And so far, yes, there's two types of asset, crypto asset on-chain, right? Crypto native asset and the real world asset like stable coins. And the stable coins amount is significantly increasing during this period. And I think that this type of asset will be bigger and bigger, not limited to stable coin or the real estate or this kind of stuff. And I did a POC of a real estate tokenization, like NFT can unlock the door, and you can possess a kind of physical right to observe real estate. And at that moment, what was surprising was that people did not complain about their scalability or high gas speed at the time so much. People were complaining about their privacy stuff because if customers expose their privacy on chain to deal with their real estate, it will be very bad. So I think that the next phase we need more strong privacy for real world asset trading. Otherwise, people do not tokenize that and trade that or use that on chain, I guess. So yeah, in their next phase, that's their care phase, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think for the next 2 years, we all should stop talking about human rights as privacy and like use cases like healthcare and like insurance and like governments and these kind of ideas, and show very like not killer use cases, just like 5 instances of using cryptography or like security for like a better application. We are like happily seeing some trends recently that we are using things like FHE, like MPC, or like TEs, like, or ZK for better use cases. Like you can have like a more efficient DeFi market that is less, there's less exploits, less like, I don't know, like extractable value, but like mercenary intermediaries, and you can get, as an end user, you can get like a better deal. So like when you show like that specific example that people are using, for example, on Uniswap, and you say that, oh, like by the way, we use like privacy, and like hopefully they will say like maybe it's like cool thing, there's like some more opportunities here.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make, actually. And I think, how much do we think that education for the end user is important here as kind of driving this? Because, occasionally when we have these innovations or things come into the fold, they're a bit like oil and water. We had a lot of chat, blockchain and AI, and you start to talk then how those two converge in a sensible way, away from the kind of hype. But how important do we think education to the end user is?
I think it is not at all important. And the reason for that is that if you build a product that requires a user to be sort of re-educated to do the stuff that they already know how they want to do it, then your product is bad and you will fail. So instead, we should be aiming to do all of the actually quite sophisticated and difficult cryptographic work in order to align the actual cryptographic properties of whatever blockchain protocol product is being presented with the user's expectations, right? Like if you start using Signal, you don't have to be re-educated about here's like all of the weird aspects of the private messenger. They built a new this is not new anymore, but 10 years ago when they launched, the innovation of Signal was we're going to make a new cryptographic messaging protocol that works over asynchronous networks like text messages so that it doesn't just randomly break while you're using it. And that's an example of how they took the time and the effort to align the cryptography with what the user's expectations already were, which is I want to be able to talk to my friend privately. And similarly with blockchain privacy products, the goal should be to build a product that just works as a product. I remember there was a really funny meeting maybe like almost a year ago now with some of the Penumbra team where somebody on the front end team was like, oh, but like, we've done all this stuff and we've just built it, but now it like just kind of looks like any other DeFi app. And it's like, yes, we did it, like we won, great. And I think that that's a key kind of mindset shift between like we're doing ZK, as a kind of cool, demo or prototype, to we're doing all of the work required to make that into a usable product.
I remember the moment, like on WhatsApp. I don't know how many you use WhatsApp, and like there was at some point in time, maybe 2 years ago, there was.
The end-to-end.
End-to-end messages are now encrypted. And I remember people looking like, what the fuck? What do you mean now? What happened?
What was going on before?
Where did my message go? And so I think I 100% agree with Henry. People don't like to be lectured. People don't like being told what to do, and what you're doing right now is wrong because you're losing your private. People don't want to hear about that at all. They just want excellent products. And when we're talking about the masses that we want to bring in, very low bandwidth, you just need to provide the best possible products. My bleak perspective is that you know, a lot of things are carrot and sticks. I think it will be sticks eventually. Like I think people, there's going to be like a massive breach of some sort. You know, maybe you know some organization kind of like start publishing data about transactions and connect it with people, etc. And people will be, you know, in like in a Black Mirror episode and be super frightened about everything they've done on a public blockchain so far. And I think that may be the shift towards people actually actively looking for things that are more encrypted.
Yeah, I agree with that. No, people hate lecture and they hate being preached by somebody. And in that sense, I think that it's a drastic idea, but no, we make the best tracer and they publish that, right? So basically right now, chain analysis and in crystal, they are quite hard on the high price and it's not published, right? So if we publish, somebody's published there, who on-chain tracers and they trace everything and this address is friend or payment and everything is on the blockchain explorer. People start to know that I need to hide something, right? And so right now the problem is that people are not serious about their on-chain privacy because of their tracers are limited and the people do not imagine that tracers can be used by malicious people or kind of criminals or side as well. And yeah, I think that tracer side, if we commoditize their tracer side, maybe people will realize their possibility or need of privacy, and I think it's their most kind of effective way of their education.
Yeah, my end vision for privacy in Web3 is that ideally it should be effortless and you shouldn't even know that you have privacy, and the protocols that are not private should be publicly shamed, like HTTP. But you shouldn't make, I think a lot of people actually care about privacy. It's country specific, but a lot of people care, but not as much as paying a lot or having a lot of psychological and technical costs. And privacy is cool for many people. I know a lot of people that don't really care about privacy, but use Signal or Tor to just show to their friends that I'm private. And I think it's a positive thing, anyways, right? But I think education, nobody talks about education. I think education is super important for the very same reason that we had something like crypto zombies, because Solidity was a very vague idea that really nobody knew about that. But because of using gamified experience, interactive education, a lot of Solidity developers actually built really serious products. I think we shouldn't never call it two-party, privacy preserving gamified DeFi when we are talking about poker, and we need to build more poker so other developers can just learn developing more serious applications by these simple examples.
Yeah, I think it's an important factor that I was talking to someone about the use of VPNs, for example. And how many of us who want to log into public Wi-Fi just take that as a given, that it's a sensible step to take, a bit like not having your password as password 123. I've worked with some cybersecurity firms that have told me some absolute gems about how security is treated in passwords in organizations, for example. So it comes down to, I think with consumers, they're often not ready until it's too late. So until you've been the victim of a hack or a scam or something that happens in internet banking, for example. And I think adoption of self-custody, where people are used to being protected. So if my bank account is hacked, I'm suddenly dealing with, I can get £85,000 back under European law, for example. So we need to prepare consumers to be ready for self-custody, and a lot of that comes from security, and a lot of that security comes from privacy. So as you say, I quite like the comment there about saying, do we name and shame those that don't put that into context, don't put that at the front? It just becomes a standard that encryption level of privacy is so important in the consumer knowing they're safe, rather than shoving it down their throat. These are the horror stories. And I think as we move forward, it's all going to play a role. I'm being told we've got a minute left, so I thought I'd hand over to the audience and see if anyone had any questions before we move to closing remarks. Over there. I'll try and come down with them.
Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, no worries. So in terms of privacy, if we kind of compare it with stablecoins and why they found product market fit is apply this logic, what do you think it will be the fundamental factors for privacy to get it on?
Really good question.
So the stablecoin thing, like I'm like extremely activated about this, right? Because I think stablecoins are really interesting. I have a different theory about how it is that stablecoins came to get adoption, and the theory that I have is that stablecoins actually followed DeFi. So one of the things that's challenging about doing payments is that as an individual, you can't just choose to use a payment network because there's this other sort of off-chain flow in the other direction. But one of the things that was unique about DeFi during DeFi summer was like for the first time, people could just like go and start using a blockchain and get some value out of that as an individual without having to be kind of onboarded in clusters. And I think that part of what happened there is that DeFi created an economy and then like money follows the economy rather than the other way around. And so once there was this economy, you had a critical mass of people who could, who had some reason to be doing stablecoin transfers with each other. And then from that was the thing that allowed all of the advantages that you mentioned to kind of accelerate the adoption. And so I think that for privacy, what's needed is to build some kind of on-chain private economy where people are actually getting economic value from transacting privately on-chain, and for that to be the like nucleation site for greater adoption of the technology. And that is exactly the product theory for Penumbra.
And to that, and which I fully agree, to add some regulatory clarity, right? Like, I don't know, say anonymity is wrong, but concealing metadata is okay, it follows GDPR, great. So I think that can also be supportive for the cause.
100%.
But the basis is let's find innovative ways to do trading that generates value for people, then people love it. That has been the crypto story ever since.
Really, I was going to pass to closing remarks, but I think we couldn't close any better there. So apologies that we couldn't quite get round, but I think we've reached a really good point. Actually, talking of regulation, there's actually a panel on that a bit later, which I think everyone should stick around for. Personally, I've been looking a lot at MiCA, like many of us should be at the moment, and where that leads many things. So I'm looking forward to that. But thank you so much. It's so great to have such a knowledgeable panel and such great audience to ask such good questions.